Before we begin this video, which is going to be talking sort of about the themes in this book, at least in the first half because I still haven't finished reading it, Political Ponerology. Before we begin that, I want to say thank you to everybody who commented on my last video where I talked about my bank experience. I just want to clear a couple things up for some of the common questions that I heard and saw. Why don't I just do everything online? Well, two reasons. I'm opposed to doing everything online. I think technology is one of the big problems that we have, and I'm aware of the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where they want to replace all workers with robots and AI and have us all live on a universal basic income where they control our every move. So I don't have a smartphone, first of all, and I resist tech everywhere that I can resist it. So for me to use my my online banking portal and take a picture of the check or whatever, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to acquiesce to that. Secondly, I can't even do that for my particular bank with checks from the US or anywhere else other than Canada. If I wanted to stick to Canadian checks, I can go to the bank machine, it's no problem, but I can't deposit other currencies into their bank machines, which is really weird in this high-tech world, isn't it? You think they could just give an option for the US account on the bank machine and I could deposit right into there. But somehow, with this Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, the technocrats have everything figured out, even in this world. I can't deposit a US check into my US account at a bank machine. So when you look out at the future they're promising you, you'll own nothing and be happy and we'll all do every single thing online. Just realize they can't even manage to get a US bank account linked up to the bank machines. All right. And another thing before I move on, I didn't mean to imply that this was an egregious offense that the bank did to me, even though it was bad. This is typical. That's why I made the video. This is typical, and there are much worse examples out there as well. I just wanted to show what a run-of-the-mill experience in the bank is. I mean, every force in that building was aligned to just shame me, make everything difficult for me, lord it over me, reinforce the COVID narratives. It was anti-human, it was anti-social, it was unkind, and yes, I lived through it. It's fine, and I'm going to go back in there without a mask next time I go, and all of that. But I just wanted to show people and share, because I know so many other people are going through similar things. That's all. That's what that mainly was. All right. I am tired. I am at the end of my rope of looking at facts and proving them to you. But I'm very glad that there are others taking up the mantle, such as Naomi Wolf. She's been very, very strong on COVID and the restrictions to our rights and freedoms. Of course, she's in the United States. I've been familiar with her work for many years, and I have a lot of respect for her, to be honest. She's a liberal and a progressive, but she has definite questions about the direction many, many things are going, and she has for many years. But what's disheartening for me is, and this has been going on for decades, what it seems to be to me is that a group of people will get traction. They'll refine their arguments. They'll find the best proofs of their cases out there. They will gather together in a way and support each other, and they'll go beyond just the laser pointer news items. And they get to exist in the world for a while like that as knowledgeable, deeply researched people. And they get to try to share that with the public. But every so often, the powers that be come along and wipe those people off the board. And then a new crop grows up and does the exact same thing. And then they wipe them off the board. So we're in this constant cycle of trying to get to the bottom of things. We're in this constant cycle where as long as you're just chasing the laser pointers and asking good questions, that's fine. Because I think it serves to confuse people. It serves to terrify people a lot of the time. But the minute you get too much momentum, it's time for the powers that be to step in and wipe the slate clean and do their smear campaigns or their strict censorship. So for me, it's frustrating because there was a large group of us, myself included, who were getting closer to the bottom of things. And now we're all gone. And now it's very frustrating to watch the new crop starting at kind of square one or two or three. It's really hard because you get the sense that this cycle will never end. And that's the truth of it. Many people who are very strong in speaking out against COVID measures or the climate change measures or the UN or whoever, the Great Reset, they aren't there yet. They aren't willing to accept a couple of fundamental truths. One of them is that this is not incompetence that we're witnessing. This is a long-term, predatory way of operating. I call it a plan. I think the plan has been ongoing since before World War I, and we are just seeing the advancing stages of it. And in fact, the plan has been going on, in my opinion, for more than 2,000 years when our Savior came and tried to press the reset button then. And the forces that oppose humanity, that oppose compassion and justice and true brotherly love, those forces, that force, is in charge. And we can put all the scientific and political language we want around it to try to remove it from the realm of the supernatural, which so many people today are so uncomfortable with. We can put all the language we want around it, but when you really learn enough, have seen enough, the only answer, the only system, the only language that we can really turn to get to the bottom of this all is the language of faith. That is my true belief. But for now, we can hang out in the realm of history, science, psychology, and we can use those words. And my stomach. And we can ask those questions. And we can hope that one day the powers that be won't wipe us out before we actually all agree on what the bottom line of this is. Okay, let's read some stuff. All right, so the author of this book, Political Ponerology, Andrew Loashevsky, he frames this in terms of pathological individuals having had some sort of childhood trauma, illness, or brain injury, and that their actual brains are warped. That's how he chooses to talk about the nature of evil, adjusted for political purposes. And the part I'm going to read, he's already gone through all of the brain injuries and abnormalities and talked about certain concepts, but I'm going to skip all the way to page 95, where he's talking about the fact that pathological people are a minority in the population. That's what he says, and this is the graph that he provides. So I'm going to start from that section. The fact that deviant individuals are a minority should be emphasized all the more, since there have been theories on the exceptionally creative role of abnormal individuals, even an identification of human genius with psychology of abnormality. However, the one-sidedness of these theories appears to be derived from people who were searching for an affirmation of their own personalities by means of such a worldview. Outstanding thinkers, discoverers, and artists have also been specimens of psychological normality, qualitatively speaking. After all, psychologically normal people constitute both the great statistical majority and the real base of societal life in each community. According to natural law, they should thus be the ones to set the pace. Moral law is derived from their nature. Power should be in the hands of normal people. A ponerologist, as I said, he defines that as like someone who studies the genesis and spread of evil. A ponerologist only demands that such authority be endowed with an appropriate understanding of these less normal people, and that the law be based upon such an understanding. Because according to him, most people can't understand it. When we see evil practiced, we write it off as, oh, no, that person can't be as bad as I think they are, or, that sort of thing. And the author argues that that's our big flaw, is because we are normal, moral people. We tend not to attribute abnormal, immoral acts to an abnormal, immoral person. We think it's an accident, or we think it's that famous excuse, incompetence. We have to get better at recognizing it. Okay. The quantitative and qualitative composition of this biopsychologically deficient fraction of the population certainly varies in time and space on our planet. This may be represented by a single-digit percentage in some nations, in the teens in others. Said quantitative and qualitative structure influence the entire psychological and moral climate of the country in question. That is why this problem should be the subject of conscious concern. However, it should also be noted that evidence suggests that the dreams of power, so frequently present in these circles, do not always and necessarily manifest fully in countries where this percentile has been very high. Other historical circumstances were decisive as well. And if you think about it, what are we going through now? An extraordinarily odd historical circumstance with COVID, coronavirus, pandemic, which many of us argue is not a pandemic at all. The entire thing was constructed. And if it was it constructed by moral people? It couldn't have been. And so could this construct be a way of creating the historical circumstances which activate the small number of people who are psychopaths in our society, and then empowering the whole system which grows up around it? Okay, I carry on. In any society in this world, psychopathic individuals and some other deviant types create a ponerogenically active network of common collusions, partially estranged from the community of normal people. An inspirational role of essential psychopathy in this network appears to be a common phenomenon. They are aware of being different as they obtain their life experiences and become familiar with different ways of fighting for their goals. Their world is forever divided into us and them. Their little world with its own laws and customs, and that other foreign world of normal people that they see as full of presumptuous ideas and customs by which they are condemned morally. Their sense of honor bids them to cheat and revile that other human world and its values at every opportunity. In contradiction to the customs of normal people, they feel that breaking their promises is appropriate behavior. One of the most disturbing things about psychopaths that normal people must deal with is the fact that they very early learn how their personalities can have traumatizing effects on the personalities of normal people, and how to take advantage of this root of terror for purposes of reaching their goals. This dichotomy of worlds is permanent and does not disappear even if they succeed in realizing their youthful dream of gaining power over the society of normal people. This strongly suggests that the separation is biologically conditioned. In the psychopath, a dream emerges like some utopia of a happy world and social system which does not reject them or force them to submit to laws and customs whose meaning is incomprehensible to them. They dream of a world in which their simple and radical way of experiencing and perceiving reality would dominate, where they would, of course, be assured of safety and prosperity. In this utopian dream, they imagine that those others, different but also more technically skillful than they are, should be put to work to achieve this goal for the psychopaths and others of their kin. We, they say, after all, will create a new government, one of justice. How familiar does that sound? They are prepared to fight and to suffer for the sake of such a brave new world, and also, of course, to inflict suffering upon others. Such a vision justifies killing people whose suffering does not move them to compassion because they are not quite conspecific. They do not realize that they will consequently meet with opposition which can last for generations. Subordinating a normal person to psychological abnormal individuals has severe and deforming effects on his or her personality. It engenders trauma and neurosis. This is accomplished in a manner which generally evades conscious controls. Such a situation deprives the person of his natural rights to practice his own mental hygiene, develop a sufficiently autonomous personality, and utilize his common sense. In the light of natural law, it thus constitutes a kind of crime which can appear at any social scale in any context, although it is not mentioned in any code of law. Essential psychopathy has exceptionally intense effects in this manner. Something mysterious gnaws into the personality of an individual at the mercy of a psychopath and is then fought like a demon. His emotions become chilled, his sense of psychological reality is stifled. This leads to a decriterialization of thought and a feeling of helplessness, culminating in depressive reactions which can be so severe that psychiatrists sometimes misdiagnose them as manic depressive psychosis. Many people rebel against a psychopathic domination much earlier than such a crisis point and start searching for some way of liberating themselves from such an influence. I will stop there so that we can discuss a little bit before I close this video. The author there describes how the sociopathic and psychopathic individuals constitute a very small portion of the population, and that normal, well-adjusted, good people are the majority. And we should have the reins of society. But he talks about how such a small percentage can dominate the entire psychosocial climate of a society, a community, a group, even a country. At this point, I think we're seeing it sort of globally. And I think he very accurately describes that sense of bewilderment that normal people feel when they are confronted with a system, even a small one like a family, that is dominated by someone who is so flawed in their thinking. And he also says that the psychopaths and sociopaths know this. They know that they are kind of other in the world, and they resent this bitterly. So they strive to create a world in which they fit better. They view normal people as much weaker than themselves because we are burdened with a conscience, and they exploit that to their own gain. When the author talks about them seeking to create a new government, one that is just, a new sort of justice, that's exactly what we're living through now. The psychopaths have infiltrated so many institutions which we all grew up with. We all were acclimatized to being justice-seeking organizations. Not only the courts of law, but even civil rights organizations and legal aid type organizations and other NGOs that purport to look after human rights. The psychopaths gained control of those organizations, and now they operate within them. Later on in the book, he describes the process of how that happens. It's almost a natural selection process. The people who are good people suddenly sense that the environment is toxic and they leave, they move on. And that frees up the system to become sicker and sicker with different hiring practices, different policies, etc. Until we reach the point of complete takeover. And if you want to look at it this way, when you hear, I can't think of any, Amnesty International now, Red Cross now, the Oxfam and the United Nations and all of these organizations, peacekeeping, Doctors Without Borders, Journalists for Human Rights, and they're all Potemkin institutions at this point. The facade is there. And anyone not looking closely enough at these organizations will be fooled by the facade, by the buzzwords, by the pretty websites and the spokespeople that they send out to repeat their mantras. Most people are fooled by that. Which brings me back to the original, one of the original points I made was, it seems to me that any time a group of people get too close to that reality, get too close to pushing down the cardboard cutout facade of these organizations, we get wiped off the map. And then the whole process of discovery must begin again. So we're up against it because at this point, the media is a Potemkin media. Human rights organizations, Potemkin. Justice system, Potemkin. Economy, Potemkin. And all of these technocrats that say, look at all these corrupt institutions, we must replace them with the Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, sustainable green agenda. And look at all these corporations that are on board. They are lying to you. Now, I know my audience mostly understands that. I know you do. But I think it's worth repeating. When I was just waking up, I liked to hear other people say the things that I was thinking in my head. So hopefully that's what I've done for you here. I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk more about political ponerology. But I have to tell you that I believe it's all just trying to reinvent the wheel. We can put all these psychological names on it. We can look at brain injuries. We can, keep reclassifying things so that it tries to conform to atheist worldviews, materialist worldviews, so that it's not anywhere near these really triggering words like evil or demon or God or even morality, But if we do that, we're playing in their sandbox, which they already control. The whole scientism thing is the Potemkin village, is the Potemkin facade for the evil that really lies behind it. Is science real and valuable? Yes. But it's been gutted by the same people who've gutted the media and the government and the courts and the rest of it. We can't convince some people to see the truth. We can't. They're very happy in the Potemkin village. The ponerological process is pretty much at its peak. But we will win in the end. I promise you, this cannot last. It's self-destructive. It's spiraling into the abyss right now. That's why it's so painful. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you'll join me again. Hey, please go to my website, amazingpolly.net, and you will find how to contact me. If you'd like to send me a contribution, a gift, a prayer, a letter, your own personal story, I'd love to receive that through the mail. If you want to make a financial contribution, you can also do that digitally. I've got that set up on my webpage as well. And I haven't been putting much on my website lately. I needed some time off. I really did. But I will get back to it, I promise you, very soon. In fact, I'll put something up there today that tickled me pink that I saw in photographs from an anti-lockdown rally in Belleville, Ontario, Canada. I have to show you the picture from that, so go check out my website. All right, guys, that's enough. Until next time, peace out.